Hey y'all, and welcome to the third annual Rainbow Bungalow Christmas special. This year we've got performances by Jade Jackson and Josh Wolfe, Katie Boeck, and as always, a little special something from myself, Cy Winstanley. But this year we're going to start out with something a little different, that being a Christmas story. This is read by the tantalizing tongue of Emerson and is called a Schittie Christmas story.
It was Christmas Eve as snow gently fell upon the peaceful town of Tendernook. Mrs. Howard was tucking the children in bed, reminding them that Santa would only come if they were asleep. As the children lay snuggled in their beds, Mr. Howard went to sit out a plate of cookies for Santa. As Mr. Howard basked upon the Christmas tree, he thought to himself, maybe Santa deserves some Schittie cookies this year. Mr. Howard reached into his secret stash of delicious nano delta 9 THC shortbread Schittie cookies and laid them onto the plate. This should do the trick, he said with a grin. He sat the plate down next to the fireplace and hurried off to bed. "Did you put the cookies out for Santa?" Mrs. Howard asked as she waited for Mr. Howard in bed. Mr. Howard nodded as he climbed into bed. "I've got Santa covered this year, honey," he replied, and the two dozed off to sleep. Around 2 a.m. there was a thud from the roof. Santa had finally arrived at the Howards. He grabbed his satchel as the reindeer rested upon the snow-covered rooftop. Santa scaled down the chimney where he found the Howard's Christmas tree and a plate of Schittie cookies. "Ho, ho, don't mind if I do," Santa said, grabbing the cookies from the plate. Santa immediately devoured the cookies, not realizing he had just ingested 500 milligrams of the most purest nano delta 9 THC this side of the Mississippi. Within seconds, Santa passed out cold, where he slept all through the night.
If we make it through December, everything's gonna be alright, I know. It's the coldest time of winter. I shiver when I see the falling snow. If we make it through December, we got plans to be in a warmer town come summertime. Maybe even California. If we make it through December, we'll be fine.
Got laid off down at the factory. The timing's not the greatest in the world. Heaven knows I've been working hard. Wanted Christmas to be right for Daddy's girl. I don't mean to hate December. It's meant to be the happy time of year. My little girl don't understand. Her daddy can't afford no Christmas gear. If we make it through December, everything's gonna be alright, I know. It's the coldest time of winter. I shiver when I see the falling snow. If we make it through December, I've got plans to be in a warmer town come summertime. Maybe even California. make it through December, we'll be fine.
Maybe even California. If we make it through December, we'll be
The Howard children awoke the next day and wandered down the stairs where, to their surprise, Santa still sat, faded and fast asleep. The children ran to wake Mr. and Mrs. Howard. "Daddy! Mommy! Santa's downstairs and asleep next to our Christmas tree!" they exclaimed. Mr. and Mrs. Howard grabbed their robes and hurried down the stairs where they found Santa, snoring peacefully with an empty plate still on his lap. "Oh my gosh," Mr. Howard said. "I think I got Santa too stoned." "Too stoned?" Mrs. Howard exclaimed. As the kids gasped, Santa awoke and screamed in fright at the sight of the Howard family staring at him. "Santa!" the children shouted. "You're real!" "Of course I'm real," he replied with a chuckle. "And these are real good cookies." Mrs. Howard blushed. "I'm sorry, Santa. My husband must have gotten into the bourbon last night, and I suppose in his drunken stupor thought it would be a good idea to leave out some shitty cookies for you," Mr. Howard interrupted. "Well, 'tis the season of giving," Santa joked as he rose to his feet. "Speaking of, I'm starving. Shall we have some breakfast, don't you think?" With a wave of his hand, the Howards watched in amazement as every imaginable breakfast dish magically appeared on the kitchen counter. "Wow," they gasped as they grabbed plates and utensils. "Thank you, Santa." The Howards, along with Santa, filled their plates with pancakes, eggs, bacon and sausage, hash browns and pastries with sprinkles and icing. They turned on the TV to watch the Christmas parade as they ate their feast, when to everyone's dismay, the news was covering a developing story. "It's pandemonium across the globe," the news reporter screamed into her microphone. "Santa was a no-show this year, and people are looting stores and burning Santa Claus memorabilia." The Howards gasped as they looked over at Santa, who sat frozen in horror. "Oh, what have I done?" Santa cried as he watched in horror as an effigy of him burned to the ground.
Chestnuts roasting on an open fire, Jack Frost nipping at your nose, Yuletide carols being sung by a choir and folks dressed up like Eskimos. Everybody knows a turkey and some mistletoe can help to make the season bright. Tiny tots with their eyes all aglow will find it hard to sleep tonight. They know that Santa's on his way. He's loaded lots of toys and goodies on his sleigh, and every mother's child is gonna spy to see if reindeer really know how to fly. so I am offering this simple phrase to kids from 1 to 92. Although it's been said many times, many ways, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas to you.
Mrs. Howard looked over at her husband with disappointment. "Are you happy now?" she asked. "Well, I didn't know Santa was such a lightweight, dear," Mr. Howard retorted. Santa broke into a cold sweat as he began to have a massive panic attack. "I've ruined Christmas," he proclaimed. Mr. Howard rose to his feet. "Kids, you feed the reindeers while I pack the sleigh. Dear, will you please make Santa the strongest cup of coffee known to man?" he asked. "Of course," she answered, rushing towards the coffee pot. The Howards sprung into action. The kids ran outside, tossing carrots up to the reindeers still perched upon the rooftop. Mr. Howard climbed his ladder up to the roof where he laid Santa's satchel back into his sled. Mrs. Howard waited with Santa in the kitchen as the coffee dripped slowly into the pot. "I'm sorry, Santa," she cried. "My husband can be so inconsiderate." "Mrs. Howard, that was the best night's sleep I think I've ever had," Santa said. "But Christmas is ruined," she said, pouring Santa a cup of coffee. "I don't know what my husband was thinking. He just always wants to get high," Mrs. Howard confessed. "Well," Santa said, grabbing Mrs. Howard's hand, "a very wise man told me once, why be low when you could be high?" Mrs. Howard smiled. "You're right, Santa. Why am I being such an uptight dingleberry?" "Exactly," Santa chuckled. Ho, 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 ho. The back door swung open and Mr. Howard, along with the children, came running in. "Your sleigh is ready, sir," Mr. Howard said, removing his hat and gloves. "Well, that's my cue," Santa said as he rose to his feet. "Santa, what about our presents?" one of the Howard children whispered. "Oh, how could I forget?" Santa exclaimed, and with another wave of his hand, gift-wrapped boxes filled the Howard's home as the children gasped and cheered with glee. "Oh, thank you, Santa," they cried as they ran to hug him. "Well, that's what I'm here for," Santa replied after chugging his coffee. "I must go now and save Christmas. Before I do, though, any way I could get some more of those shitty cookies?" "Of course, Santa," Mr. Howard exclaimed, tossing Santa a tin. "Ho, ho, ho," he chuckled as he walked over to the fireplace. He turned back around with a grin on his face. "Thank you all so much, and have a Merry Christmas, Howards," he shouted, and with a snap of his finger, he vanished. That day, Santa delivered presents to all the children of the world, and Christmas was saved. The Howards watched the news that night as the reporter said with a smile, "Well, this was a Christmas no one will ever forget. And as the last Santa figurine melts to oblivion, I suppose we should remember the true meaning of Christmas. It's not what you get, it's what you give that really matters. Good night from all of us here in Tender Nook, and have a Merry Christmas." The end.
So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. So this is Christmas, and what have you done? Another year over, and a new one just begun. So this is Christmas,
I hope you have fun, the near and the dear one, the old and the young. Have a merry, merry Christmas and a happy new year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. So this is Christmas, for weak and for strong, for rich and for poor ones. The road is so long. So Merry Christmas for black and for white, for yellow and red ones. Let's stop all the fight. Have a merry, merry Christmas and a happy new year. Let's hope it's a good one without any fear. War is over if you want it. War is over now.
All right, guys, that's all she wrote. Thank you so much for tuning in to the 3rd annual Rainbow Bungalow Christmas special. Thank you to our wonderful guests, our videographer, Natia Cinco, and we love doing this and we look forward to doing it again next year. Have yourself a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and all of the things. Thanks a lot. Bye.